You there, and welcome to another episode of A Spoonful of Theatre, Singapore's only theatre podcast.
I'm TJ, theatre practitioner, director and performer.
And I'm Sam, a teacher of language, literature and self-proclaimed show business lovey.
This is our podcast where we spill the tea on all things Singapore theatre. It's tea time!
And today's episode is the first of our special Singapore Fringe Festival mini-series.
And we are interviewing Sofie Buligis about her one-woman show, Celup.
She's behind the whole thing, writing it, producing it, and starring in a show all about identity, mixed heritage, and where we feel we fit.
But for now, pop the kettle on,
grab a bicky,
and let's add a spoonful of theatre to sweeten up your day. Happy New Year, Sam.
Happy New Year, love. It's 2026. We are now in the second half of the 20s.
Oh, yes. We are indeed. Oh dear, now I know how you've been feeling all this year. Feeling just that extra little bit older. Okay.
Shut your face, right? Did you have a lovely Christmas and New Year, my darling?
Darling, I had the most wonderful time. I had my family over and we had the first Christmas that we realised it's the first Christmas and New Year we've all celebrated together for a long time. Because my dad's a DJ, so obviously he's always worked on Christmas and New Year. So it was really special to have those times together. And we went to Thailand. It was very lovely. So yeah, it's been very wholesome. How about you? How was your Christmas and New Year?
I went to Taiwan and Japan, and I did not want to leave Japan. Oh, it was just marvellous. And I went there as a passenger and came back as cargo. The food. My goodness. It was, brilliant. Lovely.
And we are back in the studio.
Yes. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while.
But now this is a very special couple of episodes, a little mini-series doing, because, dear listeners, as you already know, the Singapore Fringe Festival is about to open.
Absolutely, and it's a bit different this year because it had a slight rebranding from where it was before.
That's one way to put it.
And I think many of our listeners probably are very aware of all of that. It made quite a lot of news, and they've had to kind of crowdfund almost to make this year's event happen. So we have got some very interesting guests from the Singapore Fringe Festival. We're going to ask them all those sorts of questions and find out what programming they've put together this year, because it really is a very community-driven festival this year. And we are both huge fans of Fringe Festivals, and it's a very important space for the art scene to grow. So we have secured some amazing interviews for the next two episodes. Who do we have today, Sammy?
Well, we have the wonderful Sofie Buligis, and she has, I can't believe this woman, she has written, produced, and is starring in her own show. I can't wait to talk to her about it. But what about our second episode, TJ?
Oh, well, I could tell you now, but I think we're going to wait till the end of the episode because it is extremely exciting who we have on our second interview. A little spoiler alert. Maybe you can have a think while we're in this episode. It is a cultural medallion winner. Ooh. Our first ever cultural medallion winner on the podcast. Ooh. So stay tuned at the end and we will reveal who will be joining us on the next episode.
But of course, it is our pleasure to welcome our first guest. So coming up next, it's Sofie.
Sam, we are joined by a very special guest.
We are indeed. It is Sofie Buligis, who is the... What are you? You are the actor, writer, producer, the whole kit and caboodle of Singapore's Fringe Festival, Celup. Now, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are. You are. It's Celup.
Celup. Celup. Now, what does that mean?
Celup is a word that means to dip, dunk, submerge. It can also mean to scald. You know, like when you're trying to blanch vegetables? Celup can mean that you celup some vegetables. But it's more commonly used to describe someone who is brown on the outside and white on the inside, or someone who's a little bit whitewashed.
Okay.
So if you're like a Malay kid who maybe doesn't speak a lot of Malay at home, or you're not very in touch with Malay culture, that's what your parents or your grandparents or your friends will call you. They'll call you a budak, a kid, celup.
And is that what you were called in your life? What sort of effect did that have on you?
I I think as a kid, I mean, it never was anything too serious. I think I was called Celup very affectionately by my friends, by my family. But I always had this sense that I didn't feel Malay enough.
And what does that mean, being Malay enough?
I've always felt like I wasn't the same as the rest of my... It felt like there was something missing in my education of being a Malay person.
Right.
There were a lot of things that I didn't get to do as a kid that some of my other peers got to do. There's a lot of stereotypically Malay things that Malay kids in Singapore sometimes get to do. Whether that's like speaking Malay at home or getting to go to like a bunch of different houses for like Hari Raya. My family only visits 2 houses during Hari Raya. And so like when I was growing up, I was like, how come all my other friends are going to like 10, 15 different houses? That's not something that my family does.
Is it something that you've consciously rejected, or you feel conscious that you've been rejected by?
Well, growing up, I feel like it wasn't so much that it was a conscious rejection. It just felt like there was something missing from my childhood. And in the show, I talk a lot about it. And I talk about how my parents, but as with a lot of Malay people in Singapore, they kind of felt like they had to put their Malayness in their back pocket in order to kind of succeed in Singapore. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, because there are different like racial majorities and racial minorities in Singapore, and Malay people are a racial minority. And so sometimes when you are of like an ethnic minority, there are certain challenges you have to go through, even though Singapore is a really multiracial society.
So where did the idea come from to turn this into theatre?
I've always felt like I'm a little bit too brown for like mainstream English speaking theatre, but also like not Malay enough for like Malay language theatre. Like my Malay is horrible. Like I don't speak very good Malay at all. And so the idea came from kind of just wanting to like take ownership of that and to create a piece of my own and kind of like poke fun at that. Because I do have a lot of friends who are like, hey, like you really don't speak very good Malay. Or they make all these jokes and references to stuff that I just don't understand, or I never grew up like learning those references. And so I think that I wanted to make a show about it just to poke fun at it and to kind of own it a little bit.
So where did the process begin? Was it writing it? Was it visioning what the show would look like? Was there conversations with dramaturgs or producers or directors, or where did that process begin?
I was really lucky enough to be commissioned by Singapore Fringe, so that this is the debut of the piece. When they were doing their open applications, I just thought I'd submit it. And I didn't have any expectations. And then they wanted me in for the festival. And that's when I began writing the piece. I was working with an awesome dramaturg called Azura Farid for a while. And then I also collaborated with my awesome director, Crenshaw Yeo. So Crenshaw is a fantastic collaborator. A lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, you're making a show about being a Malay woman. Why is your director Chinese? And I think it's because Crenshaw really understands what it feels like to not feel like you belong. Because Crenshaw is Chinese, but she also spent a lot of time living in Australia. And so there's a certain disconnect that she feels to her Chinese identity. And so a lot of the work was made just like me and Crenshaw in her house, brainstorming and typing out stuff and like writing stuff and be like, Crenshaw, this is good. And she's like, it could be better. Yeah, that's how we made the piece.
So in terms of the creative process then, so I think sometimes people, if they are not used to a one woman or one man show, might not understand, okay, when I go to the theatre, I'm just going to see one person. So what could we expect? Okay, so because like, how does one person make a whole show on the stage? So to our audience, what's going to drag them to the theatre?
That's a really good question. Yeah. They can expect a not typical one-woman show. I don't think like this is not going to be me sitting there telling my whole sob story about like how I don't feel Malay enough. I think it's a really funny show. The biggest thing that I wanted was for it to have heart and for it to be entertaining. And so there's actually a lot of audience interaction. What happens is I take the audience on a journey with me where they help me to become more Malay. So we have to complete tasks together that will help me achieve my Malay potential. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so it's a bit of audience interaction, a bit of gameplay almost, is there?
There is,
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Without giving away too much, they are going to have to role play different characters with me. They're also going to have to make sambal belacan, which is a kind of Malay food.
Oh.
And we make it together, like me and the audience.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how many people are in the audience? Is it quite an intimate performance, or?
I'd say about, I'm going to get this wrong, but I feel like it's about 100. But it is a really small piece. I mean, it is a really small theatre. And it's in a black box. It's at the theatre practice. So it's quite a small, intimate space. Yeah.
And also, obviously, I think the beauty of having a Fringe Festival is that we can try things out, and that's what I've always loved about Fringe Festivals. It's a space for new works to be discovered and find things and find your feet. So the process up to now, obviously, you're getting close to the show now. Have you had trial audiences? Like, what's the creative process of like getting that feedback before you take it to the festival?
I have. I've had a couple trial audiences. One of the things I was afraid of about making this play was that I was scared that Malay people would be offended by it. Just because I haven't seen a lot of work in Singapore that is about being Celup. There's a lot of work about being Malay or what it means to be Malay, but actually in my piece I talk a little bit about how like I've got a lot of internalized like racism towards like being Malay, or how sometimes like being Malay, or I've had a really challenging relationship with being Malay. And I think that it's great that at a place like Fringe, there's space for me to kind of explore what that means to me. That it doesn't take away from my pride about being a Malay woman, but it's still part of my journey, figuring that out. And I was afraid a lot of Malay people would get angry at that. But actually, like, I've invited quite a few people to come and watch the play, and they've all said that actually it feels like a really important story to tell, because it creates a very nuanced picture of what it means to be a Malay person in Singapore. Yeah.
I think a lot of people will identify with it in different ways. That idea of identity, but in such a globalized world where East and West are always overlapping, shall we say, like, are there Chinese people that feel too white? Are there Chinese people that feel too Chinese? Are there Indians that feel more too Indian? I mean, we've been in Singapore now for 10, 12 years. Have we lost... what does it mean to be a long expat? That I'm really interested to see what direction your work goes in answering those questions.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's not a piece about what it means to be Malay. I think ultimately it's a piece about what it means to feel like you belong. Yeah. Because that can mean so much to so many different people. Yeah.
Tell me more. You've shared your experiences of in terms of identity and growing up being a Malay. What about your journey as a performer? Like, how did we get from young Sofie to be, I want to be on the stage, to now having written and produced a show that's about to go in the Singapore Fringe? How did we get there to performer Sofie?
It's interesting you'd ask that, because actually while creating this piece, I remembered that one of the first times I felt like I wanted to be a singer or a performer was through watching these old Malay films called the Bujang Lapuk films. So Bujang Lapuk translates to like the Lazy Bachelor. I'm going to butcher that, but it's like the Lazy Bachelor or something like that. And it's by a famous actor called P. Ramlee. He was a Malaysian, or every country wants to claim him, but some people say he's from Singapore. Some people say he's from Malaysia, but basically he was this really famous Malay actor, and he made this series of films called Bujang Lapuk. And I remember my dad we're not a very Malay family, but for whatever reason, every Sunday my dad would put those films on. And there's a scene in the movie where this actress called Saloma, and Saloma is actually P. Ramlee's wife in real life. And she is singing a song called Larut Malam. It's a jazz song, and she's singing in a nightclub. So she's a Malay woman wearing a kebaya, but she's singing in a nightclub. And that's really, like, if you know, like, Singaporean media, you know that that's really quite strange because Malay people aren't portrayed to be people who go to nightclubs. What happens in reality is different, but what happens, like, what we see in the media is really quite sanitized in terms of how Malay people are portrayed. And I think the first time I saw her and she's wearing this, like, glamorous kebaya and she has like a big beehive, I was like, wow, I want to do that. I want to sing jazz in a nightclub. And I think my parents, like, I don't know if they know that that's the first time I felt like I wanted to be a singer. But also I think that's the first time I saw a lot of myself represented on the screen. Like someone who was Malay, but Malay in a way that was not not quite so conservative, if I can say. Yeah, you know? Yeah.
So in terms of the show then, obviously, you know, you're talking a lot about singing there. Do we expect singing in the show?
No.
So this one's just a pure play.
It's just a play, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I did experiment with like singing and like, you know, maybe putting a song in there. And Crenshaw loves musical theatre. Like my director and I feel like when we are working in the space, half of how we communicate is through like musical theatre references.
I can relate.
She's like, when you put on the robe, it's like when Alphaba puts on her like cloak. Okay, and I'm like, girl, I got you. But I think that we talked about it and we were like, we couldn't find a song that felt like it was like earned. And we're both of the belief that if we're gonna put a song in there, it has to like really be earned. And we couldn't really find anything that fit it. And so I think as a performer too, it's really refreshing to be part of something that isn't a musical or that has nothing to do with musical theatre, because I love musical theatre, but it's really quite challenging in a good way, I think, to be doing just like a straight play.
When audiences come to see that, I think, because I definitely associate you with musical theatre, and potentially this is another thing of expectations, you know, like you expect to, I think maybe in the arts we do expect musical theatre performers to often just do musicals, and people do pigeonhole, even as a performer, you know, we're talking about Malay in the show, but as a musical theatre performer you can often feel like you get overlooked for plays because they're a musical theatre performer and they do plays and things like that. So I think that sense of identity even in the theatre world does kind of come out as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's really lovely, I think, and that kind of showing that, you know, musical theatre performers and creatives can do plays too.
We can.
Yes. So I think really kudos to that for kind of creating this for the Fringe. And obviously it's a very special year of the Fringe because it's the first year it's in its new kind of phase, obviously, and there was obviously all of the things there. So how is it for you this year, particularly being invited to be one of the kind of poster shows of the Fringe? What does that mean to you to be part of it this year?
I think this year's theme really means a lot to me. It's all about representation in the arts, and I think I'm in really good company. Like the fact that I can do the same Fringe as like Lesbian Love Story, that makes me so excited. I never thought in Singapore that I'd ever see a Lesbian Love Story musical.
Do you know what? I said exactly the same thing to TJ. Like I was just shocked to see the title being advertised. I'm like, I mean, that's proper. I mean, TJ and I are familiar with Edinburgh Fringe, so we've seen all sorts of weird, wonderful and out there titles. But for Singapore art scene to be so blatant, I said to TJ, I'm like, I can't believe that's gotten there, but great, marvellous.
That's what Fringe is all about.
Yes.
It's about pushing boundaries and challenging audiences. And I think, so who do you hope is going to come to this? Because I think Fringes for me have multiple angles. Obviously, I think theatre people in general often will go. So there's obviously a lot of theatre people and regular theatre folk. But who would you hope comes through the door to watch this production?
Oh, I had a thought about this, which is that when I initially started writing the play, it went really academic, actually quite academic. It was like a research into like, what does it mean to be Malay? And it got quite like, it almost became like a performance lecture. And I really love those kinds of plays, but I didn't want my play to be that, because I didn't want it to feel inaccessible to like the average person. Like I wanted my parents to be able to go and watch. I wanted like my aunts or my grand aunts to be able to come and watch. So I really just want like the everyday person to come and watch and feel not intimidated by something like that says fringe, because I think with the word fringe, it feels very out there. It can feel really intimidating to like an average person who doesn't usually watch theatre. But I love to see people who don't regularly watch theatre come and watch Celup, because I feel like they might actually have a really good time.
That's certainly something we all want for the Singapore art scene, that more everyday people access the fantastic performances that are available all throughout the year in Singapore. That keeps it alive and thriving. That's fabulous.
So just thinking forward, so obviously, you know, this is going to be a huge success and everyone's going to know your name after the Fringe, of course. So what have you got in the works in future? What's your future plans?
I'll be working on a little something called Beware Rave.
Yes.
We love it.
So in case you don't know about Beware Rave, it's a rave where we play only musical theatre music. Sometimes we don't even mix it with like the beats, or we just play like pure musical theatre, and everybody raves to that.
Oh, I was at the last one. TJ was not. You were.
I was on holiday.
You were on
Yeah, I was on
holiday.
holiday.
I went along to the last one, and I had so much fun.
I'm so glad.
And what I loved about it is that it was just so communal. Everybody in there was a musical theatre nerd and just wanted to be there and have so much fun. I loved every minute of it, except for the fact that it was on a school night.
Oh, that's what Rachel and I were saying. We're trying to get it on a Saturday night, but it's so expensive
Oh,
to
of course.
book venues
Oh,
in
I can imagine.
Singapore.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we've been doing open mic now for years, and you know, it's on a Monday night because the venues want you.
Yeah.
But I think it's another community space, and I think, you know, that's really important to find the kind of those communities, and we all belong in those communities. And exactly, going back to your show, it's about, you know, it's about finding a space that you belong, or you feel like you don't belong. And I think it's going to be really interesting for people to come and watch your wonderful work at the Fringe.
Thank you.
Which is a even bigger community of artists and performers and audience members. So thank you so much for coming down, Sofie. We've
you for
loved this
having me.
chat.
Now then, my darling, before you go, tell our dear listeners, what are the dates, where is the show, and where can they get their tickets?
It's happening January 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at the Theatre Practice, the Practice Space, and you can get your tickets at Singapore Fringe at Book My Show.
Fabulous. And that is the lovely Sofie with Celup. We look forward to seeing it, darling. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
My goodness, TJ. I mean, you've done this kind of thing. You've performed and written and produced, and my God, how do you find the energy for such things?
I know, and do you know what? The thing for me is, as a one-person show, as a one-woman show, it takes a lot, because it, you know, to make it not just a monologue, or to make it not a stand-up comedy routine, to make it a theatre show, one woman, one man shows are just so tricky. But you know what? I have full confidence in Sofie, and I, for one, can't wait to go and see it. And I hope that many of our dear listeners are now inspired to go and see it. And the themes are very universal, although they're very specific. You know, the show is specific to her malayness. I feel like everyone in different ways can relate to kind of feeling an outsider at one point or another.
I love the reason why she wrote it, and it made me think back to one of my favourite authors. And he said the reason he wrote his books is because he wanted to write the books he wanted to read. And you can tell Sophie's done exactly the same thing. She's written the play that she wants to see. And what a great reason for doing that. Oh, good luck to you, Sofie. I'm sure it's going to do marvellously well.
Absolutely. So please go and support all of the Fringe, all of the Singapore Fringe. Please go and check out all of their programming over on the Singapore Fringe website. Also, all of their social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, at the necessary stage as well. So it is such a vital part of the Singapore art scene. And I think any growing art scene worth their salt needs a space for people to try things. And it needs a community of people to go and support that as well.
And that brings us really beautifully on to who our guest is for our next episode. Go on, TJ. I'm sure our listeners are dying to know.
I am so excited because on our next episode, we have the one and only legend himself. It is Haresh Sharma, the Singapore playwright that I imagine all of our listeners know and love.
And studied,
exactly. So we are going to be interviewing Haresh on our next episode, which will be launching in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. And Haresh also not only helps produce the Singapore Fringe Festival, but also has one of his own works at the festival this year as well. So we'll be asking him all about his work, but especially the journey to getting to this year's Fringe Festival, because it was a rocky road, losing their title sponsor and really having to try and find the funding is not an easy feat. So definitely we'll be asking him all about that.
Oh, cannot wait. And finally, we've got a writer.
We've got
a writer. Yay. Oh, so my tea's definitely gone cold, love, because I'm going to go straight to that episode. Shall we leave it there?
Yes, let's wrap up this episode.
So it's cheerio from us. We'll be back soon.
And a ta-ra from me.
And to anyone working in Singapore Theatre for the next month.
And to all the performers and practitioners working on the Singapore Fringe Festival, break a leg.